yeah, I did change, and I'm really glad I changed.
This one's wife. Watch out, Texas. Something beige approaches. Hello. I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife thinks that she is important. This one's wife thinks that what she says matters. This one's wife believes herself to be some kind of colossus, striding the earth, dispensing wisdom and healing wherever she goes. The reality is that she is a not particularly bright individual who has nothing of interest to say. Nevertheless, for somebody that doesn't actually have anything of interest to say, she does extremely well in getting so much coverage about the fact that she has nothing interesting to say. Indeed, a lot of the coverage is as a consequence of people finding it hilarious that she insists on behaving as if she is some titan of wisdom, when in actual fact she is not. The rest of the coverage, of course, comes from the PR puff pieces that are advanced to pump her up to make her seem like she's that imagined titan. Much of what people say about her, write about her, is as a consequence of the fact that she is so deluded to believe that she's repeatedly doing good when so many people recognise that it's simply an exercise in self-promotion. Furthermore, so many people watch and read because they're waiting for another opportunity to see her narcissism in action and to revel in another faux pas, another ridiculous exercise in making herself look good, as all around shake their heads and suffer repeated eye-roll injuries. The fact is that this one's wife really does see herself as somebody that walks the world stage with meaningful things to tell everybody. She really does see herself as an individual that empowers women, although the evidence is to the contrary. She really does see herself as a person who will turn up somewhere, issue what are essentially fridge magnet platitudes, and believe that she has just made speeches which rival that of JFK or Ronald Reagan telling Gorbachev to tear down this wall. She believes that she's in effect making the Gettysburg Address each time that she makes a speech, unaware of the fact that so many people observing it recognise that it's just yet more industrial beige being pumped out by her. This is the blindness that's created by the narcissism, and those of you listening probably have come across individuals where you think to yourself, do they not see that this is actually quite boring? Do they not recognise that they've kind of lost the audience here? And yet they still continue. Sometimes you almost have a begrudging admiration for somebody to be able to do that as you stand there thinking to yourself, gosh, I'd be dying if this was happening to me. I'd be totally embarrassed, but they don't seem bothered by it. And that's because in the mind of this one's wife, her narcissism is telling her, you're a legend. They're loving this. Of course, if there is any visual sign or audible sign that people aren't, the narcissism just weeds that out. Oh, they're just haters, they don't understand. Yes, it's gone above them, they're not particularly intelligent. No, they don't grasp it. They're not on board with your philanthropic ways. Instead, it will then cause her to focus on the small gaggle of individuals that are being supportive, of looking for the camera instead. Her narcissism is particularly adept at winnowing out the dissent, labelling it as being the behaviour of haters and swivel-eyed bigots, and therefore dispensing with it. What this unfortunately means is that she becomes that unflushable turd, that rather than think to herself, do you know what? I'm not very good at this public speaking lark, am I? My speeches are boring, people aren't inspired by me, indeed, I get ridiculed Perhaps I ought to stop. No, not her. It isn't a case of her thinking, the more you protest against me, the more I will speak, but rather her self-belief that she's got something important to say. She is so wrapped up in her own world that she believes that everything that she does and everything that she says ought to be reported on. And to some extent, of course, the behaviour of the media in commenting upon her feeds into this. She knows that where she goes will be reported on, either as a consequence of PR puff pieces or the mainstream media because they can't get enough of me. What she fails to realise is that so much of the media is doing it because there is a huge audience of people wanting to see her fall flat on her face. But she just does not get that. The narcissism comes to her rescue once again. Accordingly, this means she keeps on going. And the only way that it's going to stop is when people stop watching. So long as people read about her, watch about her, listen to what's being said about her, she'll continue to keep going because it's all going to provide her with fuel. When people don't show any interest, the reporting will slow and eventually cease. And then, whatever she does won't be reported on. Oh, she'll still seek to agitate, she will still seek to gain fuel. Of course she will. She can't help but do that because she is a narcissist. But at least you won't have to suffer reading or watching about it. But that is some distance away. And we're once again treated to the fact that there is foreshadowing of something that the Duchess of Industrial Beige is going to do. Naturally, it falls to people, although it is covered in other instances and other pieces of media, as they act on the press release that has been issued, as we're told. This one's wife will head to Texas for XSSW panel with Katie Couric and Brooke Shields. Just as an aside, I once had a conversation with Brooke Shields in a jeweller's in New York a few years ago. Lovely lady. Anyway, Janine Henney tells us the Duchess of Sussex will take the mic. Well, she always tries to, doesn't she? On International Women's Day. Of course. A day in the calendar for an opportunity for this one's wife to say, I must be doing something because, after all, I am the patron saint of female empowerment. She's going to be in a panel titled Breaking Barriers, Shaping Narratives. How Women Lead on and Off the Screen. This one's wife has something special planned for International Women's Day. What, she's going to disappear? If only. On Monday, the XSSW conference announced that the Duchess of Industrial Beige, 42, will participate in the opening day keynote panel later this week. The 38th conference, celebrating the convergence of technology, film, television, and music, kicks off Friday in Austin, Texas, and runs until March 14th. This one's wife is set to join a panel called Breaking Barriers, Shaping Narratives, How Women Lead on and Off the Screen, alongside Katie Couric, Brooke Shields, and Nancy Wang Yuan, an author, sociologist, pop culture expert, and diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant at Peopleism. Could you imagine introducing yourself at a party? Hello, I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant. Oh, where's everybody gone? The conversation will be moderated by Erin Haynes, host of the Amendment podcast and founding mother and editor-at-large for the 19th News. Women's representation in media and entertainment has come a long way, but there's still much to be done, especially for women of colour and mothers. Well, no wonder this one's wife has been drawn to it like a moth to a flame. She is, of course, a woman of colour when it suits her, and a mother when it suits her. Social media's omnipresence has raised the stakes, creating an often dangerous environment which has led to serious mental health issues for teenage girls in particular, said the release about the keynote. The group, including this one's wife, Couric and Shields, was described as visionary female leaders. Tell me this. What are the visions of this one's wife? No, not to make myself as popular as I possibly can by always talking about myself or merching every opportunity. How is she visionary? What visionary behaviour has she ever engaged in? What groundbreaking research has she undertaken? What earth-shattering inventions has she generated? What unique concepts has she come up with? How has she helped people with a vision? She has not. Thus, to describe her as visionary is completely inaccurate. But it battles on by telling us visionary female leaders at the forefront of news, media, entertainment and philanthropy. Well, she's certainly at the forefront of news as a consequence of PR puff pieces. Media, ditto. Entertainment, I suppose she does form some form of entertainment as a consequence of providing something to ridicule. And philanthropy, well, she likes to think that she is. Who are breaking barriers. Really? What barriers has she been breaking? What, the old trope of marry a man to get somewhere? Is that barrier that she's been breaking? Or has she been breaking the barrier of playing the victim in order to get sympathy? Because that's never been done before. So again, how is she visionary? She isn't. Which barriers is she breaking? Well, we know she doesn't recognise boundaries, but that's something different. Challenging stereotypes. Well, she tried to do that, didn't she, through archetypes, even though she misunderstood what archetype and stereotype mean. And working towards a healthier society on and off our screens. So, again, explain to me what she's done that makes society healthier. In actual fact, she's played the race card, played the victim, engaged in elder abuse, has been nasty to both sides of the family, has cultivated a rabid group of individuals on the internet known as the Shuggers that disseminate awful comments about members of the royal family and behave with a pack mentality. So, come on, tell me what she's done that's created a healthier society. The Duchess of Sussex was shouted out as a feminist, she's not, champion of human rights, and gender equity, there we are, bandy that phrase around, and co-founder of the Archwell Foundation, among other accolades. You know, on this panel, I would really love for a journalist to sit there and say, you're described as a visionary female leader. Can you give me an example of you being a visionary female leader? And then just sitting back and enjoying the subsequent word salad that comes about. You've also explained that you're breaking barriers. Could you explain to me which barriers you've broken and how you achieved it? And then sit back and listen to the tsunami of word salad. Explain to me how you've challenged stereotype. And no, that isn't archetypes. And then sit back and wait for the deluge of beige to spill from those flapping gums of hers. And explain to me how you have made society healthier, bearing in mind the following, and then trotting off some of the worst crimes. That's the kind of accountability that she ought to be put to. But of course we know that she will only ever appear in circumstances where she's soft-soaped. But it's about time that somebody started to put these questions to her, because she regularly appears spouting off about gender equity, about challenging stereotypes, about being a visionary. Well, let's see the examples of you doing that. The fact is, she can't. It continues with this wankfest by explaining that this one's wife, the Duchess of Sussex, Katie Couric, Brooke Shields, Nancy Wang Yuan, and Erin Haynes are the perfect finishing touch to 8 days of remarkable keynote speakers. Hugh Forrest, co-president and chief programming officer of XSSW, said in a statement, "We are so honoured to host this distinguished group on International Women's Day for a significant discussion on the importance of representation in media and entertainment." The news was also shared on the newsussex.com website this one's wife recently launched with her husband Prince Harry, naturally heralding another thing that she's doing in order to try and make it look like she's a pseudo-royal. And this features a log of their latest activities plus links to their Archwell Foundation organisation, yada, yada, yada. It then references something that she did on International Women's Day last year, bringing up the past, and of course it then finishes with, "This one's wife and Prince Harry traditionally celebrate International Women's Day with acts of service." self-promotion more like, from sending treats to the Hub Community Kitchen to visiting a school for their special International Women's Day assembly. Yes, once again, this day in the calendar is an opportunity for this one's wife to cause herself to believe that she's all about women when all of her behaviour demonstrates that it's all about the men. And that's who she uses in order to get ahead, that she doesn't give a fig about other women. As I explained in a video yesterday, she was guilty of ignoring women again. But Texas, lucky old you, you're going to get a visit from the Duchess of Industrial Beige, the Empress of Woke, the High Priestess of Word Salad is coming your way. They're no nonsense in Texas, so I'm surprised that they're going to tolerate this nonsense. Perhaps they won't. But of course, you can be guaranteed that what news comes out of this, and particularly if we get to hear some of the nonsense that she spouts, you can be assured that your glorious narrator will be on hand to dissect and explain it for you. Do you regard this one's wife as a visionary? Do you believe that she breaks barriers? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.